And guys, this is something that really set me back when I moved to Australia for work several times, and I almost lost my job because I didn't have the convenience of it. Hello everyone, my name is Kudzie Mapiye and welcome. On this channel, I do videos about my life living here in Australia, and I also share different life lessons that I've learned along the way. And in this video today, I'm going to be talking about 3 things that you need to get before moving to Australia. Now, this video is for all those people who are thinking about coming to Australia or who have actively started the process of relocating to Australia. The things that I'm going to share with you today will help you with your relocation, will help make it a little bit more smoother, I hope, and you will feel a little bit more prepared and ready to integrate to the Australian culture. Now, these 3 things are things that I have also experienced myself, and they're things that I wish I had before. I wish I had gotten before I moved to Australia. Now, the very first thing is understanding what you can and can't have in Australia, and that's in terms of help. I grew up in Zimbabwe for the first 20 years of my life. And if you are familiar with the Zimbabwean culture, the Zimbabwean way of life, there is a lot of help available in terms of in-house help, cleaners, maids, gardeners, all of that. So in my life, I had been used to having people help me to do things that, in Australia, you would have to do yourself. Things like washing your clothes, things like, cleaning the house. And in my household, we always used to help out with different chores around the house, but it wasn't our primary responsibility to do those things. That we always had some live-in help to help us. Now, moving to Australia, I will tell you that for the very first time in my life at 20 years old, I had to wash my clothes by myself every time. And that is something that now I'm proud that I can do those things, because those are just tasks for daily living that you should be able to do. But I had lived that in such a way that, I had gotten used to all these luxuries of help that it didn't occur to me how much effort it takes to do things yourself. So one thing that you should do if you're planning to come to Australia and you're coming from a culture like Zimbabwe or a place where you do have a lot of help is start getting into the habit of doing things yourself. And what I would actually recommend is, before you move to Australia, once you get your visa, once you know that you're set to go, everything is, going ahead, get rid of all your help. Start doing things yourself. Trust me, that will be very helpful for you. That is even people taking care of your kids, childminders, cleaners, unless you know that you are going to set aside a certain budget, which is going to be very expensive for someone who's newly relocated, to have things like cleaners and, nannies and all that stuff. So, and just to give you a bit of an idea, a cleaner in Australia costs about $30 on average an hour to clean your house. And if you're talking about child minding or babysitting, it's around about the same price, from $25 to $40 an hour to mind your kids. So it can be pretty expensive. So if you're looking to move to Australia, try get rid of all those conveniences so that you get into the habit of washing your own dishes, cleaning your clothes, cleaning your house. And when you move to Australia, it's one less thing to have to adjust to, because there is a lot culturally that you have to adjust to. The second thing, and guys, this is something that really set me back when I moved to Australia, and this is having a driver's license. When I left Zimbabwe, I had gotten a driver's license when I was 16, and I left when I was 20 years old. And from the time I was 16 to the time I was 20, I really didn't have like the opportunity to drive. So I kind of like lost the skill, because in Zimbabwe you learn how to drive a manual car, and as you know, with a manual car you need to practice after your test, otherwise you do tend to forget. So when I moved to Australia, I had really forgotten how to drive, to be honest. Like the skill like I had a piece of paper that said I had a license, but really I had kind of forgotten the skill of driving. So I really had to start from scratch to do my driver's license. And let me tell you, getting a license in Australia is expensive. On average, you have to pay about between $60 and $65 an hour for a driving lesson with a licensed like driving coach or driving instructor. And you need a minimum of 100 hours of supervised driving in order to sit for your driving test. So if you add that up, that will cost you a lot of money. If you say $65 an hour times 100 hours in order to qualify to sit your driving test, that could be a lot of money if you're looking to relocate. And even if you don't do all the lessons with like a driving instructor, you will need someone who's a licensed driver to sit with you and really help you to drive and log those hours. So that is quite a bit of effort. And the disadvantage that it had for me is, one, I had to spend a lot of money to get my driver's license. Two, I was restricted to the type of work that I could do, the type of jobs that I wanted to do, because there were some jobs where you have to like drive. They're a bit like outside of town, or not really town, but like a bit further out, and they don't have like convenient public transport, so you would really have to drive. And some of the jobs there were quite high paying jobs for like a student, casual jobs, and people who had cars at that time could easily get those kind of jobs. But because I didn't have a license, I had to stick to like a workplace where I knew I could get public transport. And on the weekends, the public transport was different because the buses were not as frequent. So I had to get more buses, had to wake up earlier and get dropped up further away, and had to walk to work. And that was quite inconvenient for me. If I had a driver's license, I could have gotten a car easily, and I could have had a better experience with work and would have been more convenient. And I'll just give you an example. I had one job that I was doing when I was at uni, where I would finish my classes at 4 o'clock. I would finish my classes at 4 p.m. and I would start work at 5 p.m. and I was taking public transport. And the public transport system in Australia is quite convenient, but the buses don't always run on time. Like they can be like sometimes 5, 10, 15 minutes late. And so I was like really relying on the buses to be on time. So straight after class, I would sprint, and I'm not talking running, like I would sprint to the bus stop to get the bus, because I couldn't afford to miss the bus because I would be late for work. I would sprint to get the bus, and once I got that bus, like it will get me to like the bus stop I needed to drop off at for work, and from there I would sprint to work. And even then I would be sometimes 5 to 10 minutes late. And I remember like my supervisor like yelling at me saying, do you still want a job here? Like if you still want a job here, you have to get here on time. And having to explain to him like that, I don't have a car, like it's really hard for me to like, sometimes if the bus is late, like I don't have that leeway of time to be able to wait for the next bus and not be late for work. So I was late for work several times, and I almost lost my job because I didn't have the convenience of a car. So if you're looking to come to Australia, a driver's license is going to be something so convenient for you to have, because you'll be able to get a car easily. And if you have an international driver's license, like a Zimbabwean license or a driver's license from another country, it's very easy to convert to an Australian driver's license. You don't need to have the 100 hours of supervised driving. You just need to go and sit the test, which is a much cheaper and much easier process. So, and cars in Australia, I'll do a video, like one of my videos, just looking at the different prices of cars in Australia, starting from the lowest to to luxury cars. But you, as a new migrant, it is quite easy to get a car, like just a point A to point B type of car, for a few $1,000s for you to be able to go to work. So that's the second thing that you need. The third and last thing that you need to get before you move to Australia is work experience. I cannot stress that enough. Work experience, work experience, work experience. Australia is all about work experience, and it doesn't matter. I've spoken about this in previous videos. It doesn't matter how many qualifications you have. You might even have up to PhD level education, but if you do not have relevant work experience, it is going to be very difficult for you to get a job. So I find that in other countries, like, if you're in Africa, Zimbabwe, or, other countries, it might be easier for you to get connections in order for you to get some work experience. And you can even do this like on a volunteer basis. You actually don't need to be working there full time. You can volunteer at a workplace. You can work, a few days a week, just to get work experience that you can put on your resume and to get the relevant skills that you need in the area of work that you want to come and do. So coming to Australia, like you have to have like a resume to apply for work. And if you don't have relevant experience, or if your experience is in an area that's not the area you're applying for, then it is going to be very difficult for you to get a job in that area. And I will share like my very first professional job. I had to get work experience in the job that I was working as a casual in order to get a corporate job. Like even an entry-level corporate job, I had to have relevant work experience. That's how big Australia is on work experience. So if you're in another country and it's easier for you to get connections to be able to get exposure to the skills that you need for the work you want to come and do in Australia, please do that. It'll just increase your chances of getting the job that you want a lot faster and a lot easier. So those are the three things that I wanted to talk about that you need before coming to Australia. I hope you find it helpful if you're on your journey to migrate to Australia. And if you are, all the best. I hope you make it here. It is a very, very good place to live. That's all from me, guys. I will see you in my next video.